Here, which I will read. But before I read the statement, I just want to underscore some basic issues that I flagged when I made my remarks at the Bomas of Kenya during the launch of the BBI document. You will recall that I emphasized that Kenyans ought to read this document. And I went on to say that nobody should go away and say because Musalia Mudavadi has read it, therefore they do not need to read it. That was a philosophical way of saying that we have been making decisions without reflecting on the issues. So the emphasis is, even as we look at it, as we scrutinize it as a party, I still encourage fellow Kenyans to read this document. The second thing, and as you will see from the way we are also pointing out some issues around this document, it's 156 pages. This may be our initial commentary, and I'm sure there'll be issues emerging which we shall comment on in the context of the BBI document. But you can see already we are having a situation where instead of building bridges, people are dismantling bridges. We are seeing people already jumping to the conclusion, are you pro-parliament or are you pro-referendum? Again, they're missing the point. Because if you look at the terms of reference of the BBI, they were also tasked to bring out the modalities of implementing the contents of their report, let alone before we even agree on the contents, but the issue of implementation. It is so obvious that there are those issues that may require simple parliamentary processes, and there are others that may call for a referendum. But the way the debate is going out there, again, we are making the same mistake, polarizing the society. Instead of building harmony, instead of trying to draw consensus, we are already beginning to say either you are pro a referendum or you are anti a referendum. My plea to you as members of the Fourth Estate, please help Kenyans. Please help Kenyans so that we can interrogate this document soberly. So let me read. Fellow countrymen and women, ladies and gentlemen, the BBI document is now here with us. As I said during the launch of the BBI at Bomas of Kenya recently, as Kenyans, we need to make very serious decisions for our country now going forward. As a party, ANC has taken time to study, scrutinize, and introspect on the contents and recommendations of the BBI. From the onset, we thank the co-sponsors of the BBI, His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, for their initiative for the country. We also thank members of the task force for their individual and collective energies and thoughts which went into the document. In particular, their thoughts on the national ethos, inclusivity, shared prosperity, and safety and security generate a lot of positive action if well guided. We also know that for these reforms, there are reforms which have been proposed on IBC. And the entrenchment devolution. For that, we see a positive direction. The need to sort out the issues around IEBC and the need to consolidate devolution, ensure more resources go to the devolved units. These are laudable steps in the BBI document. Nevertheless, as a party, we firmly hold the view that the anchor on which all our hopes and aspirations must latch is a good economy and respect for the rule of law. On these two alone, the BBI has fallen short. And you will recollect when I spoke at Bomas, I said our dilemma is the economy, and I repeated 3 times, the economy, the economy, the economy. When you reflect on the contents of the BBI report, they fall short in terms of focusing on what is really ailing Kenya at the moment. The BBI has many recommendations, most of which are not novel at all, as they are to be found in our existing legal and policy documents and frameworks. Basically, to a large extent, the BBI was just repeating what is in many documents that you have all had access to at one time or the other, including our current constitution. The BBI failed to notice this, or might have noticed, but for some reason did not find it worth their time and thought. What is the problem that stops us from utilizing these many suggestions and recommendations on which we have expended a lot of taxpayers' money? Why, for instance, have we failed to utilize the TJRC report? For the last 6 years, that report is sitting in Parliament. Why? There's the Kriegler Commission on elections. There's also Honorable Ole Kaparo's report on skewed public appointments. Some of you may have already seen this. Before Kaparo left, he had his report for the National Cohesion document. And it shows you how skewed public appointments are. It's there. How people line up and you just divide and say how and how and that's it. He even gave numbers in his document. I wish to draw you back to his report. There's of course the Ndungu land report. Lack of respect for the rule of law has made it nearly impossible for us to pick and act on these and many others. The BBI failed to lead the country into a face-off with our rough past as a country. Why have we refused to be bold and courageous in admitting our wrongs and forgiving each other genuinely? I'll be a little bit musical here. As Lucky Dube says in one of his lyrics, if the cats and dogs have forgiven each other, why can't we? Nelson Mandela said, nobody is born hating another. We have been taught to. And as a country, we are busy teaching our children to hate and discriminate. Our solution as a country must lie in a genuine admission of the mistakes of our past leaders and of our own, forgive ourselves genuinely, and agree to start a new united, transparent, fair, and progressive Kenya. This is the missing thread in the BBI document. The problem is not the law. The problem is our individual character as leaders and Kenyans. We, the leaders, must lead the way. Sadly, we aren't, and the BBI has not helped us entirely. The recommendation to change the architecture of the executive does not offer the solution to our problems. If the intention is to create checks and balances so as to enhance good governance and democracy, nothing could be further from the truth than this. In practical terms, what these proposed amendments are likely to achieve is a more buttressed imperial presidency, a lame duck prime minister whose real rank and clout is even lower than that of a cabinet minister. Is that the homegrown solution as described by BBI? This prime minister is even weaker than the prime minister under the Grand Coalition arrangement, the one being envisaged in this document. Yaani ni mbaya hata kushinda ile serikali ya nusu mkate. The creation of ministers of state from within parliamentarians adds to the confusion and wastage. What will be the relationship between a minister of state and a prime minister? Is this not duplicity of roles and a sheer wastage of scarce resources? How honest is it to propose that the prime minister will rank above an MP and ministers of